regulated by your brain and spinal cord. Your spine is like your suit of armor for your spinal cord. And when it's not healthy, this can produce pain and various other symptoms. As a chiropractor, I've helped thousands of people go from unhealthy to healthy and pain-free by simply improving the health of their spine. If you're living with chronic pain or if you feel like you're dragging yourself across the finish line every day, set up a consultation to learn more about how we can help. You can book online at 603chiros.com or call 603-935-5478 and set up your consultation today. Don't put your health on hold. It's your greatest asset. Visit 603chiros.com today.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn on the mic.
Welcome to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM, and you can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live. We are also live on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome.
Welcome.
We have a special guest today in the studio. I am going to do his introduction.
Do it.
His name is Nick Aaleurd. And I first met Nick Aaleurd at a real estate investment group in, I think, 2011. And he had the sense of humor that I had. And he had the honesty that I had. And he would tell you the real skinny behind what's going on. And he was a rising star. He was like the guru of the East. The real estate guru of the East when it comes to real estate. But the part that made him so amazing was that he told you about his fails as much as he told you about his successes. And part of what I don't like about the real estate industry is we're always tooting our own horn and selling. We're not selling snake oil because
but
people
you kind of have to in a way.
You do.
You do have to kind of toot your own horn.
But when you're selling investments and you're selling the possibility of making money, to also sell that, hey, sometimes things don't go according to plan and that you might have a misstep or a problem. And because of that, I always rooted for Nick. I was always like in his corner, bumping up to, against him in the world. And he is our guest today. Welcome, Nick.
Oh, you're so awesome, Lisa. Thank you for having me so much. I love that same thing about you too. It's funny are we allowed to swear on air?
No.
Okay,
FCC.
We're not swearing. Never mind. Got it. No worries.
We have an F-bomb.
In case that comes out.
Okay, good. So here's
just hold it up.
The one thing I really, really appreciated about everything is that the struggles were real, and social media is the top 1% highlight reel too.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So what was the case for us? Like when we were doing real estate deals, it's like people don't necessarily want to know that you make $1 million. They want to know like the stuff that goes down, right, to get to the place where you can be super successful. So I related with you too, Lisa, because like you could tell you had so many stories, and I'm like, who's been in the business when you have these crazy stories, like messed up.
Right, and the venting, I had to vent them somewhere because I'm like, this was not what I thought my life was going to be when I got into real estate. I did not know that these were the stories that came, and no one was talking about them, but Nick had stories that he would honestly talk about. And the fact that it's sometimes hard to come across like that true honesty, it was something that always attracted me to you. And I am so excited to hear about what's been going on with you and what your new journey looks like. And we kind of thought that we would have the topic today be about burnout.
I'm down.
Is someone here burning out? What happened?
I'm on a burnout right now.
I do burnouts in the car.
So we went to the movies the other day. We went to the movies to see Dune on Sunday.
Oh,
yes.
Was it Dune. Sunday? Yeah, so we met Lisa and John there. And Chris is not the best parking. I was going to say Parker. He's not the best Parker.
Let's talk about this. Yes.
He's not we're talking about burnout, and I just thought it was funny. He pulls in, and Chris, of course, we're running behind. trying to herd, 4 humans, adult humans, and everybody's going in different directions and pull in. And, he comes skidding and he's got his big truck. He comes pulling in. We get out and Jonah's like, we're kind of on the line. I'm like, yeah, that's coming. I said, riding the line. I said, that's us. Coming in hot and always riding the line. He's like, what does that mean? I mean, always running late and bad parking.
Going over where you should be.
Right.
Overstepping your boundary.
Right. Right. But I also want to say is, I think it's funny how, because I think we're going to get a little bit into some woo-woo stuff today. Maybe just
We're going
dipping
to be
our
a lot woo-woo today, I think.
or maybe just dipping our toe in. But I think it's funny. I'm sitting here listening to you, and you two know each other. And how long have you guys known each other?
Oh my gosh, over 12, 13 years. Yes.
12 or 13 years. And you had just said to me, you've known Chris since, 2016?
Well, I knew of him a lot before he knew me, right? And then he and I just really connected, I'd say, 2 years ago, again. And we were different people. Right, 6 years ago, we were totally different people, and now 2 years ago, we were totally different people, and today, we're 2 different totally people, which is so cool to just reconnect and understand.
Yeah, and I just met you a couple of months ago. You had an event down in Mass.
Yeah.
And actually, that's a good space, too, to do a photo shoot.
Oh, excellent.
So we can get that stuff for him. Anyway, and I just think it's funny how our alignment in circles. You knew Chris independently, and did you know that Chris knew Lisa?
No.
And now we're all doing this kind of investing.
So I've known Chris almost as long as I've known Nick.
Right.
And I meet him at a networking event, and he wants to talk to me about self-development and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, I have property management. I have snow on my roofs. I have whatever. And he's like, well, I do contracting too. I can help you. And he called me the next day, and that was our forte into it. And at the time, it was 2008. We had, 2008 in the real estate world. We don't even we just whisper it. We don't want to talk about it for real. We don't want to talk about it to will the gods or anything again.
Right.
But and then so I had been really burned out at that time because I was in real estate for almost 10 years at that point. I went through an up cycle. I went through the down cycle. And it was like that, coming into that down cycle where, all right, I think maybe the worst of it's over. I think we're kind of leveling out. But I just was worn out. And so, Chris is positive and, uplifting. And I'm like, dude, can you help me with this? I can handle that. And then we became really good friends before Robyn and I became friends. And he used to say to me, you have got to get out of these properties. Because I used to manage when you're growing that business back up again. After the down, you're taking whatever you're taking, right?
Yeah.
And people are buying really cheap stuff, which is an area why it's so cheap. And I was managing that.
Yeah.
And there were shootings at in front of my building, and there were all these things. And Chris would come to a building with me, and he's like, "You cannot come here again by yourself. What are you doing?" I'm like, "I come here by myself every day, Chris." And he's like, "What? Oh my goodness, you can't. We need to get you something else. We need to get you." But then I came back out of that, and I started firing clients who wouldn't do what I need to manage places that I want to be at, and then I had to reestablish my business again.
Yeah.
Because you have to you get up to 150 units managed, and then you slide back down to 75 units. And then and then I just realized property management needs to be less and less and less and less of my life, because it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're always behind.
I had no idea how you even did it, Lisa. And I remember we connected at one meeting where it's like, oh God, I'm like, how do you go to those places by yourself? And then we started getting into a conversation about how you take tactical running around and shooting training. It's like, wow, badass. So,
Yeah, I think you can say that one.
Well, it was starting to be anyone can shoot a paper target, but can you shoot someone on the move? Because I'm going to be moving. I'm not standing still.
Right.
I'm running while I'm doing this, But,
dodge and weave.
And that became part of, all right, I need to, what am I doing? I'm not a cop. I don't have training. Why am I part of this world almost? And it's like fair housing. That's why you're part of that world, because you're not discriminating against anybody. And maybe you need to have some kind of financial discrimination, I want to be able to handle, obviously everyone has the right to housing, and everyone has, but maybe I don't need to be in an area where I'm afraid of being robbed when I go into work, where I
Right.
don't take my purse when I go to my showings or go into my rentals. Like maybe I need to be, selective about what I'm taking and where I'm going. And my business plan was helping people buy properties that needed to be renovated and then flipped. And we were doing it on the multi-level because I stopped being able to find really good deals on the single families.
Yeah.
And then 2021, I just had it. And I was like, I'm not even really doing that. And then, so that's why I thought burnout was a great topic, because everyone talks about real estate being passive.
Yeah.
And there is an element to passive if you're just providing money.
Oh, it's just mailbox money. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just comes in every month. Nothing
Right.
to be done with it. It's
Right.
fantastic.
It's just, you just wake up in the morning and it's all there.
Magically.
Yes.
And one of the things I was telling one of my clients, he said, this is anything but passive. I said, who told you it was passive? I didn't tell you it was passive.
You didn't hear that from my lips.
You didn't hear that from my lips.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's just so much. And God, even since our last conversation at that meeting, right? So we started off with a wholesale rehab operation in 2005. And actually my first 5 deals, lost everything. Lisa, you already know that story. But first 5 deals, I was a banker in corporate, in Mellon Bank in Boston. And they had me working 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks. And I remember seeing an infomercial on television. It's like, oh, you can buy real estate pennies on the dollar. If you do, so I'm like, I'll pay $50 for that binder to come in the mail, right? And I read through the mail and it was tax liens. I'm like, oh, cool. And it says, if you're serious about real estate, contact this 800 number. I guess I'm serious. I just paid $50 for this binder. And I called the number, and the best salespeople in the world talked me into my first $6,000 over the phone boot camp. Here's how to market. Here's what a motivated seller is. Here's what all this stuff is, and here's how you can serve people. And I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was angry and mad at myself because 8 months later I still hadn't done a deal with it. So a guy in Minnesota found me, and he's like, "Hey, you're looking to get into the game. We have undervalued real estate." 2005, right? Undervalued real estate here, and we have tenant buyers lining up to lease to rent to own these properties. You can come in here and we'll make money on the rentals for 3 years, and we're gonna make money because they're doing a purchase and sale to buy it in 3 years, 20% above what we're paying. And back then, legally, you could get money at the closing, finance it 90 to 100% financed.
Wow.
And the seller would give you something called a payment authorization right on the HUD. You buy a property for $450,000. The seller would say, "Here's $40,000, and thanks so much. Right, good luck to you." So I can make all the money I've paid for all these courses and seminars and workshops back in my first purchase. Screw that, I'm doing 5 of them in 1 week. And
Go big or go home.
Right.
there it was. And that became a big part of my personality. Learning now, looking back, that was a problem for me. And that's those 5 deals we turned out that week, and we had our first conversation with this guy in Minnesota, and he didn't show up to that next call. We're like, okay, we have to get the tenants in here, which are getting rental income. Let's move it. And all of a sudden, we realized that those tenant applications were not real, and the renters were not real. The P&S agreements were not real, but the mortgages that I had signed were very, very real.
Oh my gosh.
So 10 loans,
Jeez.
and you can only float that for so long. And those are my first 5 deals in real estate. And that was the beginning, right? And I think that was a story you might have heard, Lisa, that day at that event. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of me thinking that my life was over financially, right? In my
The shampoo
20s.
bottle is what I remember.
So are you now carrying 5 mortgages for?
You mean back then?
Yeah.
It was 10 mortgages, 90%, 100% financed for all 5 properties.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, 2005. Yeah.
So how did you get out of it?
4 of them went to short sale, 1 went to foreclosure. That was the beginning of my real estate journey. And in my 20s,
I'm just going to back into this backwards.
Yeah.
No, I'm making all my mistakes up front.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to do so much better later on. The
I'm
story
going to
is so
front load
exciting.
all the problems early.
We're going to get these out
Oh,
of the way.
I wish
yeah.
that was my problems, though. Those were the beginning of the problems. But, it taught me so much about myself, right? And I thought my life was over for the next 6 to 8 months. All my colleagues, right, they're all still 401ks and everything, but going out to TGA Fridays every Friday night. I'm like, what did I just do to my financial life? Not realizing that was just an opportunity for me to just change the way I was thinking about it. I need to take ownership. This was my decisions, my fault. I need extreme ownership, right? And what do I now need
Well, you
to do?
had the risk, right?
Yeah.
If I'm bearing the risk, they need to be my decisions, not someone
Right.
else's.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, but the idea that the thing that clicked in with you that says, yes, I'm going to go forward, I think it's I don't know, we talked about this about resistance.
I think it was ambition,
on
because
a
I'm
show.
very ambitious.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's your desire to expand
There it is.
and reach outside of your comfort zone. And sometimes we're not consciously aware of it, of like, hey, why is this happening to me? But the truth of the matter is, what I hear you saying is, I was willing to take a risk on myself because I was getting frustrated and I wanted to be in a different spot.
Yeah, that's true. For financially, for sure. You know what's funny though? Being now, so I'll do a quick fast forward for you guys, right? So that was the first 5 deals in real estate. I then had to learn how to wholesale, right, to come back, because it's the only thing you can do with no cash or credit. And so I was knocking on doors in Somerville, Massachusetts, talking to a lot of tenants, trying to get contracts for sale, and learning how to work with sellers that were in troubled positions, learning how to work with contractors and estimating rehabs, learning how to work with what's called hard money, right, where I don't have credit, so you have to go to private investors and have loans on these properties. And I started to create systems and processes around that to finally allow me to quit the corporate job. But it's funny because you just mentioned ambition, and that's really a piece to what I've just experienced on this burnout piece. That ambition turned into, okay, I'm going to do 5 to 7 deals this year and made some money. I'm going to hire a couple employees, and we're going to do 12 deals, and now 20, and now 50, and now we're going to do 100 this year. We're going to lower our profit margins just to say we can do 100. Now we're going to open up into 7 different states, and I'm going to not just have the best operation in Massachusetts, I'm going to have the best one in New England. And then I would hire, because my team has to be the biggest team, and I have to get the nicest office space, right? That became a pattern for me without even being aware of it.
Yeah.
And it turned out and I found myself it was 2022. This is, I guess, the crux of what I share, right? 2022, I have a date to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, right?
Are you a hiker? Are you a hiker or a
I
climber?
was then. I wasn't until then. I mean, you should train for this, right?
Because that's the big one. That's one of the big ones.
That's the highest, what is it, freestanding mountain
in that whole
in the
continent.
World. No, in the world.
On the world.
Because the Everest is on a range. So you can say it's the highest freestanding. Ego, this is it. Oh, look at me, right? My kid's like, Dad climbed the highest mountain in the whole world.
I know, but you like challenges.
Well, I do.
You like challenges.
I love
We're going to
challenges.
say wonderful. No, it's positive. You like challenges. You like to test yourself. So here's your test.
I do. Yes, I did. And I signed up for that. This is speaking directly to Chris and what I signed up for that because I was physically a mess, right? I had bad knees, I had a bad back, I had a bad neck, and I'm like, okay, I have to do something that's completely impossible, right? For me as a physical human being, what would that be? I'm like, I'm going to climb the highest freestanding mountain in the world next February. Sounds like a plan. That's just who I was. But all that real estate to say, right? Doing these deals and building this team and kind of scaling. And we had the wholesale operation, the rehab, we had construction, we had the property management business. God bless you, Lisa. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. And we had the commercial division in 7 states. And I found myself going up to this mountain and realizing that the only reason I even got into this to begin with was to quit my corporate job and have financial freedom, right? Have the passive income exceed your active expenses. And I'm like, I am locked in to 28 Zoom meetings a week. I have this massive, massive overhead, right?
You have all these problems.
Oh, there's so many problems.
I have all these businesses with all these problems I'm solving. Why don't I just be the president of the country with all kinds of problems?
Oh, my God. I felt that, right? It's like the president didn't have these problems.
And I'm going to leave and go hike the mountain in Africa.
That was it. Well, that was it. I was at the top of the mountain and realized at the top of the mountain, I'm like, if I come back down this mountain and it's all gone, I think that would be a relief. And I remember thinking that, being like, that's a terrifying thought. I could just let it all go. What does it even look like?
So what happened? Tell me the mountain journey. So
I was going to say, how long did it take?
Yeah,
Here's
we
our
need a little
rapid
bit
fire. I know, I can see her bells going off because all my static electricity is wait, we're getting ready to go off a trail right here. No, I want to hear about how long did it take you and your journey?
Yeah, tell us a little bit
through the
about that
process.
journey.
Oh, the mountain itself?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, you know what? The journey is actually the prep for the mountain, right? Because again, was not in good shape at all, right? I was prioritizing finance, money, and business and ego over everything else. So
And your responsibility to your other people. I mean, you were responsible for a lot of lives in running a business like that.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you take your responsibility seriously, and you know you can help people. So you feel like I'm the best person qualified to help these people. And not because of ego as much as I've solved these problems. I figured
Right.
this out. Right. So that's part of the business person persona as well. So go ahead.
No, you're so true. It's so true. And it the mind and the ego and the feelings of responsibility brought me to an 8-figure business. So I remember that, and I appreciate that for what it was. Right, but it's funny, like all of that culminated in that so the journey up the mountain was actually very quick. It was the journey like to get to the mountain.
Okay.
Learning like I wasn't even a hiker. So what does that even mean? I have to climb mountains now? Like what
What
is
kind of
that?
shoes am I gonna wear?
That's all of that. I wore
Like Lisa likes to say, I had to poop out of the side of the tent.
That's why I'm not doing Everest. I'm not doing Everest because there's pooping outside of a tent. I am not doing Everest. I will fly on a plane on top, but I ain't pooping outside a tent.
Should have one of those little porta potties on their backpack.
come on. That's awesome.
No, I know. So we digress.
no,
No.
it's true.
So the journey. So you're not a hiker.
Not a hiker. Yep, not a hiker. I had to start going to physical therapy, having chiropractic done again, and like I had a whole bunch of stuff, massages, and then started doing the mountains. And my first mountain, you mentioned the clothing, right? Like I'm wearing like old dad Reebok shoes with jeans, like heavy jeans. It starts to rain. It's like I have a sweatshirt that's like not moisture wicking at all. It was like, what
He
am I
weighs
doing?
455 pounds
Oh, it was
more at the end of the mountain.
awful. It was awful. And then my hips and knees started to go out on the way down. I'm like, this is it. I can't do this, right? It was just crazy. So that journey, though, like overcoming that to get to that place, and then the mountain itself, like being out, like you're a million miles away. You're 13 hours difference. Your technology does not work, right? You have nothing. And I would say that the biggest piece of that journey for me was to see. It was me and like 5 friends from here, and we had to have 30 porters. And we're like, 30 porters? You guys are just trying to have a money grab. Like, we don't need 30 people to help. No, every single one of them had a beautiful, like, job. One did the tents. One did the poop, the guy walked up with the poop stuff, right?
Hey.
Like, there it is. But it's like the water, and one had some food, and one had the pots and pans. Like, these guys were in no gear. Like, we had all the gear from REI, right? Because we were told what to bring.
Right.
These guys have been doing this for 25 years in ripped jeans and old sneakers. And we would be, like, huffing and puffing with all of our stuff. And they would just be like,
With all
oh,
your
excuse me.
EMS and Patagonia.
Yes, yes. And these guys run right by you, hop over ledges, and they get to the thing, and they set up the whole campsite before we even got up there for us.
Oh,
With like
no,
a
that's my
Honda
kinda hiking.
full of, like a Honda vehicle size full of backpacks on their back.
Unbelievable. It was 80. Was it 80 kilograms? So what's that? 150 pounds. That's what
Per
they would
person.
put per person, and they would just be hopping from ledges to ledges. They would zoom by us.
Wow.
So it really was humbling, and then to get up there to realize, and they enjoyed serving, and they like literally wanted to see us be grateful, like be happy that they were there and setting up for us, and they were cheering when we all hit the summit. And they do this like every single 2 weeks. They do the same thing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's amazing. What I think is so interesting is the physical element into the mental element. We think we have to think our way into other problems. We have to move ourselves and physically strengthen our body to strengthen our minds.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I
So-
think.
Yeah.
I'm
Because I
listening.
needed that.
I'm
Yeah.
sitting here listening to you thinking, and you talking about the journey before you get to the mountain. And it sounds like, and tell me if I'm wrong, it sounds like putting a goal out there required you to go and start taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
It's not a decision that you'd make for yourself.
Absolutely.
Because you're stuck in the grind every day, and it's not because you don't want to, but it's like, we always put our health off
Yeah.
first. When the economy starts going down, we give up health insurance. When money starts getting tight, people
Oh wow. Yeah.
people
you're right.
lose their health insurance. I used to work in healthcare for a long time. People don't go to the dentist. People don't go to the doctor. And so we start taking things away from us. And so when you start saying, oh, okay, well, I got to go to physical therapy because now I have this objective to meet, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to love on me. But I love the way that it kind of comes back to it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's, if you're open to it, I feel like the universe is constantly giving you signals and guiding you. And so if we're not strong enough to do it for ourselves, and we can put a goal out there, and we'll do it for the goal. Like, I think
Absolutely.
that's beautiful. And then I think the beautiful piece is coming into an awareness of that, of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, I think that for me too, though, being so type A, I'll use the word masculine, I guess, right? I don't mean to say it, just what it is, like setting targets, KPIs, and go, right? Like, I was so far in that zone, and that's why, it had built this 8-figure company, and I needed a target or an objective.
Right.
Right. Like I absolutely needed that. There was no such thing though. And now looking back on it now, so that was 2 years ago. And looking back on it now, at the top of the mountain, there was another colleague of mine that was doing something similar, like 100 deals a year in all these states, and he was making like massive fees. And he posts on Facebook one day, and he said, "I just want my life to be flowy. I want to have 3 or 4 appointments a week, make the same amount of money as I do now." And I reached out to him, and I was like, and I used an expletive. I'm like, "What the F? Like, I want to be that. I want to be flowy. How do I be flowy?"
What is this flowy you speak of?
Oh my God. I was like so in. And that's who connected me to a couple they set me up for a retreat. I don't even know if you guys want me to talk about this or not.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all fair game.
It was right before I went to Kilimanjaro, and they said, I talked to this couple. They're like, "Hey, if you have faith and you trust John, we have a retreat coming up near you. It's going to be in New Jersey, but it's in July. So like sign up for it now." And that's the end of it. And it's cool because we talked about the journey for the mountain starting up when I signed up for the mountain itself. And I had no idea what I even signed up for, but I knew I wanted to be flowy,
Yeah.
right? So
I love flowy.
top of Kilimanjaro, realized that I had built this massive prison with 8 vertically integrated companies. Sounds really good on paper, looked great on paper, but I was just not happy. And I came back down and, would still meet. And between then and June, there was a series of events that happened that I can't even begin to put together. We essentially had, my COO and partner like living a double life out of the office, like different name, like wanted
Really?
by courts and like it was, I shouldn't even, like, it's just unbelievable the stuff that was found out. And it all happened because of, a physical altercation that was happening in the office with him and a few other staff members. And that led me to like dive deep because we had as a COO, like, you give up control, you give up control, you give up control. And it was during my second divorce, really, he got everything. He got the whole shebang because I had to deal with a really, really tough divorce back in 2020. So with all that said, those 6 months happened. And then I realized after I had to push him on a leave of absence, I started talking to like property managers in Pennsylvania and in Ohio, the people that we had hired to like manage all these assets. And we're like, "Okay, so, he's gone for now. I'm just getting my head back wrapped around things. Like, where are we at?" And they're like, "Oh, we fired you like as a client like 8 months ago because we couldn't deal with this guy." I'm like, "I'm so wait, so who's been managing these properties for 8 months?" "Not us."
Oh, no.
So I went to look at the financials that he had been showing me every week, and they're like, "Oh, everything's looking good." What's
He's
happening?
flowy. How does
How is he so flowy, right?
He's flowy in his Lambo. Heading out of town.
Oh my God. And before I even realized any of that I went to this retreat thing. This was all the weeks after this retreat. This retreat I go to, and I thought it was a meditation retreat. And as it turned out, and again, is this okay to talk about?
Absolutely.
Like, okay. So like I show up, and it was the couple that I had chatted with you about, and I show up like it's like I'm stressed out. I don't know if it's a hotel. I don't know if it's an overnight. They're not giving me any information. And I finally get this email that's like, "Okay, it's going to be at this location, and we're changing the date from Friday to Saturday." And I have a custody schedule. I can't do this. Court gets involved, this and that. All my life is planned minute to minute, hour to hour. I can have zero flexibility, zero flowiness. You can't do this to me. And I keyboard warrior the guy, and he calls me. He's like, "Your journey started when you signed up, similar to the mountain."
Okay.
So I heard that. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And I show up. I have my
Whatever.
stupid little overnight bag. I feel like a camper, right? I have like a sleeping bag and a pillow. And he opens the door. He shows me in, and he's like, "Welcome." And he shows me like, there's
And you're like,
Oh,
you've got like
so-
all this energy.
so angry, right? And I'm like, I can't believe what is this thing? He shows me around. He's like, "This is the living room, and we all hang out. We can be social. We chat up here. But if you want time for yourself, there's some private bedrooms downstairs that we like have." And I'm looking. There's there's like mats and all over the floor, and I like, is this an orgy? He chuckled. He's like, it's not an orgy. I'm like, oh, okay. And then a mother-daughter arrive. I'm like, okay, definitely not an orgy. And they're like, oh, we follow this couple all around the country. The wife is like one of the intuitives for Tony Robbins. He calls her for all the psychic advice. And like, we follow them around. We're experiencing past lives together. I'm like, whoa.
Is it Esther?
No, Abraham, no, but I'm seeing her in another location. But no, her name is Peggy. And Peggy and Bobby, but they keep a low profile because, what they're doing is, whatever.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But then there's a really successful, big named attorney showed up, and he wanted to connect with his dead husband that had passed away 2 weeks ago. And then a whole bunch of actors from really popular shows back in the 80s and 90s that you know of, if I said them, I told you it was over the phone, Lisa.
Yep.
They start showing up. And I'm like, oh, cool, I'm in the right room. Like, there's really cool people here.
All right, now I'll stay.
That was it. I was totally freaked out and angry. And so I'm there, and it became a night of medicine. It became a night of medicine, and it's not necessarily the things that people heard about, or like just mushrooms or psilocybin or ayahuasca. These shamans and these two facilitators, Peggy and Bobby, just really, probably shouldn't have said their name on the air, but
It's their aliases.
It's right. They don't. It's
Yeah, they
totally
don't use
fine.
they don't use their real names.
No, probably not. But they crafted a night, and I'll just share my one experience that night is that ever since I was very little, and I think maybe Lisa, maybe you both can relate. My mind started going one day and never ever shut up. Ever.
I always say I have like 5,000 tabs open.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
So, I always try to get, and I said to her, my thing now that I'm aware of, like, I used to wake up in the morning and I would go through my gratitudes the minute my eyes open before I get out of bed. I'm having a shift in my body. It's just, so my sleep patterns are different and things like that. And I have such negative, ugly, bad thoughts when I wake up in the morning that I can't get past them. I literally have to start moving my body. I have to get out of bed and start shaking them, because I start laying there and I'm like, I'm so thankful for, and then I say it, and then I'm like, oh, then I start thinking about all the problems or all the worries and all the concerns about those things. And so bed is not a place for me to do my gratitude anymore.
Well,
and
I also think too, and we talked about this a little bit, between sunset and sunrise, long shadows. Right? Like, just think of, the stars and the sun and the moon, very, very long shadows during those time periods. The sun rises and it's really angular against the earth, casts long shadows. Same thing at night, sunset, long, long shadows. And the shadows is where uncertainty lies, where it's like that whispery, like, don't ever make decisions at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when you wake up. Like,
Right.
when you don't go to bed, don't have any, don't do anything so major life decisions, because you're in a different place. It's like a dark place, not necessarily a bad place, but it's just the shadow. It's just, there's the light and the shadow. And we all have the light and the shadow. So I think the shadow in us recognizes that, and then you're like coordinating, and you're like, two shadows don't need to coordinate. We need the light to talk to the shadow a little bit, or we need the light to shine on the shadow.
It's so true.
Well,
So-
some of it, I wonder if it's, you've coming out of a sleep. And I think that sometimes
dream
our
world?
subconscious, when we are in the dream world or when we are asleep, our bodies and our brains resolve problems and issues. And I'm wondering if we wake up in that, where that thin line between conscious and unconscious come into play. And so we're still feeling those residual, so it makes us, our conscious makes us aware of it. I'm not really sure how I want to say it like that.
No,
but-
there's a moment we woke up, you're in the theta waves, right? So your conscious is meeting your subconscious in those moments. That's a good time for meditation. But it's also a time, we were taught to meditate. And just like you, Robyn, when you were sharing, right? Like, okay, the portal to meditation is to clear your mind and to observe your thoughts. But that's also when the conscious mind is fighting its way back in. We're awake now. Let's
Yes.
talk about and think about everything that we're supposed to be
Yes.
thinking about, and you left behind, and this
Yeah.
and that.
Yeah.
And it becomes a battle. So, gratitude is the portal to that. But even being taught meditation back in 2019, right? And practicing it and practicing it, the voice doesn't shut off for us powerful-minded people. Right? Like you guys, all of us.
So
And
there's
that
a
served
guided,
us at one time. Okay.
So I'm sorry. So I use a guided meditation. I think it's Jason Stanhope or something like that. Because they say, and he will tell you, I use a couple of different ones, but he'll tell you, that chatter in the brain, it's okay. Because a lot of people will stop meditating. They're like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
You just have to get through that phase. You just have to allow space for all that chatter in your brain to slow down and start listening. So he's encouraging you to let those free-flowing thoughts just pass, not attach. And so that helps ground me because I am a child of light.
Yeah.
I like to be, and Chris is like, you're the kite. And I'm like, and he's like, and I'm the anchor. And I'm like, no, I actually think that you're the rope. You're the string to my kite.
Ooh.
Because, and he's like, well, I don't want to be a rope. I don't want to be a string. And I'm like, but yet you
More
fly,
manly than a rope.
but you fly with me. You're able to go with me.
Love
You
that.
can be my anchor, but yet you're still flowy.
I love that.
And so I think that makes it just as crucial as it is to fly. I think it just makes it, I don't know, which
But he
one's
also
more
tethers.
important.
Yeah, but he
Totally.
also tethers.
Yeah, but he's the anchor because he is grounded and he's naturally grounded.
Yeah.
I'm naturally want to be in
Flighty.
the fifth dimension.
Yeah.
I love
Is
that.
the better way to say.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And what you mentioned before, so the truth is what we resist persists.
Yes.
Right? And learning to, and that was a very big moment for me, learning, and to finish that one night, right?
Yes.
Whatever, they gave me something that night where my mind, while we're sitting down, we have this induction and we listen to this beautiful prayer. And I open my eyes during the induction and I see some swirls and my brain does what it does best. It's like, oh, we're going to fight this off. Don't worry. We got you. Right.
Yeah.
Heart starts to palpitate. I start to sweat and everything. And the song ends and I sit up abruptly and he comes over. One of the facilitators like, how are you doing? I'm like, talking helps. and he just shared this beautiful, beautiful story. Very similar, Lisa, to a lot of also in real estate, also a big name and selling from the stages, and made tons and tons and tons of money in 8 figures. And he had his own battles and demons that he had to fight, and learning what that was about. And while he was chatting with me, there was the first moment since probably I was 3 or 4 years old when something beautiful happened in here, and that voice just stopped. And I never, ever, ever felt like that again. But I was totally conscious, totally present, totally feeling the love from everyone, right? And with that one moment, that whole night was just unbelievable. I had my first visuals, and it was 7 kingdoms melting into the ground. I laid down for 45 minutes, and it felt like I had 7 years of soul rest that I needed. And the thing that I'd been seeing a chiropractor for since I was 18, a car accident, I had a neck pain, and it messed up one of the vertebrae up here. I woke up the next morning and it was gone. Now it came back.
Right.
And that's when I realized, oh, but this isn't from the car accident, right? Like there's a whole, that started my exploration journey that you both sound like you're already on.
It's the trauma that you haven't healed.
It's the trauma you're holding in your body. Read The Body Keeps Score.
The body doesn't forget. And the body keeps the score. Yeah.
The Body Keeps Score. He was helping Vietnam vets through PTSD. And then Waking the Tiger is another great book.
Ooh, I don't know that one.
Waking the Tiger is a therapist who was dealing with, I think, a woman who was raped. And if I'm getting the details wrong, I'm sorry, but the
concept.
the concept of the story is there. And because she was attacked and she's reliving the story and he can see how upset she is and he goes, run. So she starts running in her chair and her moving her body
Oh, it's releasing.
moves the trauma through
Yeah.
her body. And just like they say when the deer gets chased by the coyote and it runs, sometimes they shake.
Yeah.
Their
yeah.
body physically just shakes off the adrenaline and then they go back to just grazing on their grass. We don't shake it off. We say that in sports.
We don't
when
arm
you have a bad
ourselves
play.
with tools.
Right. But that shaking, that's a mechanism when you go from really, really cold water and your body starts shaking uncontrollably. There's nothing you can do. There's a mechanism for that. It is doing, we have this innate knowing
Yes.
in our body.
Listening to our body.
And sometimes you just have to let the body take over because the body's been doing this for millions of years. It grows from 2 cells into a human being with eyes and lungs. I mean, when you start thinking of how does a bird know to fly? How does a squirrel know to hop?
Well, how does a
do all these
toddler
things-
know how to chew when they start getting teeth? Like when I was feeding the kids, like how do you know when to graduate from baby food to solid food? And they've got these 2 little teeth, or their 4 little teeth, and you're like, I don't know. They just know.
It is.
And how do they know when they're full? It's simple. You take it down to simple things and you look back and
Well, the mind sometimes gets in the way, right? Because
Yes.
the body has a knowing. But when you were saying what we resist persists,
Yeah.
and when I wanted to ask you, when you say that, and then you see your journey, and then you see this night, without this journey, do you see yourself persisting just in a different way?
Well, the beginning of the awakening, I started to have to look hard at why did I do this? Why did I build this the way I did? And when I went through a lot of, at this point, then therapy comes into play,
Yes.
and hypnosis, and okay, I'm gonna just do all the things, right? Like, what is this thing that I'm feeling right now?
me.
Fix me, fix me. And going through my own process, and I think a lot of people can relate where, there's a time in my life where I had to dissociate from my body, and with that process, I could no longer even, the body doesn't forget. And when someone's like, what do you feel in your body? It's like, I don't know. Like, mind would always be present, always be the one who answered, right? The mind is just so strong at this point because it protected me from lots of different things. And starting to realize, why did I even have to be, from school, I didn't just have to go to school. I had to be the straight A student. I didn't just go to high school. I had to be, on the sports team and be the popular one. I didn't just go to college. I had to be involved in student government and run the whole freaking
you
thing.
always had to elevate.
Yeah, and be the guy. But then the question is why? Right? So I start to go through
Or who
why
did you
I
do
have-
that for?
Exactly,
Right.
Lisa. So then real estate came, right? I'm not just going to do real estate. I'm going to build the biggest and the best and this and this and this.
And I'm going to help all of you people because you were so helpful. Honest to God. You were like, that's why I said I rooted for you. You were like taking the ball like the quarterback. And you were throwing it and I was thinking, I couldn't possibly help all these people. I can barely keep my act together. I can barely keep my, I'm not getting shot in front of a 3-family on Thursday.
Right.
It's the big win.
That's I can't help these people. I can barely, I felt like my little world, but I thought you had it. You had the ability to go. You had the ability for people to follow you. And that's why I was rooting for you,
Oh,
That's
nice.
And because I have the ambition, I want to be you.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, wow. Looking back on it now, though, it's funny because, and I'll share something, we all have personal stuff,
Yeah.
right? So I had a fight with my father when I was 14 out of a toothbrush, and then I didn't see him again until I was 23, right?
Wow.
And then same thing, I had a lot of stuff with my mother, who's probably listening to the station right now, and there's stuff that I remember that I don't think she remembers.
Yeah.
And all of that to say, I was looking deeper into this. Why did I have to be the guy? Why did I need people to even follow me or to see me, right? Why did I have to be in public?
Or why did you have to help others?
And why did I have to help others? Yeah, good one.
No, because that's a big one.
It is a big one. Well, let's talk about that.
Yep.
But I'll finish the thought by saying,
Yeah, I want to finish. I want to hear.
I want to hear.
look at me now, Mom and Dad, right? Look at me now. That's what it all comes back to. For me, it did. Look at me.
I said it. I said we all want to be seen,
Yeah,
and we don't feel loved if we don't feel heard and we don't feel seen.
that's it.
So I think a lot of us, we're all looking for love.
Yeah.
And it comes in different forms, not just romantic love, acceptance.
Yes.
We want to be accepted. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. And a lot of times we do these things and create,
Because we might not feel good enough to be seen and loved as we are. So sometimes we put on, well, will you love me if I'm
There it is.
successful?
And so
will you
sometimes,
love me
and
if I'm...
sometimes we don't love ourselves. So it's easier to put the goal out there, Kilimanjaro, to say, I'm going to hike that.
Then I'll be
to
loved.
give myself permission to say, okay, I'm going to start taking care of my body because I have to do it for this. Because I don't have, and that might be totally different for you. I know that I have very similar stories. I didn't hike Kilimanjaro, but I put things out there in order to force myself to love me.
Yeah.
And that was the singularity of it. But I had to go on a journey to come to that conclusion of, wow, I went through all of that just so that I know that I can walk away feeling like I am worthy.
Yeah.
I'm worthy. I am seen. Even if nobody else sees me, the most important person that sees me is myself.
And there it is. I want everyone to hear that. But I think the journey, everyone needs their own journey to get there.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
for
we
sure.
judge the crap out of people.
Well, social media is
of
not
doing
helping.
their own journey.
Social media is not helping. And I'll say this. The other day I saw a woman, she said she has 1,400 days sober. And she showed before when she wasn't sober. And she shows herself being drunk, throwing drinks at people and like whatever people were filming for her intervention.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
She was showing those. And then she shows herself bright and sunny and happy doing all of these other little things. And she had probably thousands of comments. And when I scrolled, I thought I was going to see way to go, good job, as I typed my amazing. You are amazing. You know, and you looked way more fun before. No one wants to be with the after girl, whatever. I'm like,
Right.
There it
who
is.
does that?
It
How
is.
angry
Because
and
you're
upset are
shining
we?
a light on something inside of somebody else. And that's what helps me not to attach to other people's, I feel like I'm very open to energy. And so I am affected by it. So when you come in like a jerk and you're going to be that way, I can only be that way so long. And I keep telling Chris, I need to do something to protect myself so that I don't absorb it, that I don't take on their energy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm constantly trying to find tools to do that, because the truth of the matter is how you respond to somebody has everything to do with you and nothing to do with them.
Amen.
If I've said a word to trigger you, it's not because it's not at me, but yet you come at me. The truth of the matter is I've hit a wound inside of you. I've healed and I've hit on an unhealed trauma. And so it's going to be projected outward.
There it is.
And so we like to blame other people for it. But the truth of the matter is that should be a wake up, like a 2x4 on the forehead to be like, wait, something I'm not dealing with.
We're all mirrors for each other.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that became a gift for me. Like when when someone is triggered, right? Instead of just throwing up your middle finger in traffic and saying, oh, F off. Why am I so triggered by this? And it goes back to your question too. It's like funny, like how do you even train your mind to think that way? Well, when I'm meditating and all the thoughts come in, I was first, stop it. Then you're like, okay, embrace you. And my question was, I wonder what the next thought will be, right? Like you start to embrace and play with it, and with the triggers too. Okay, if we can just take that second and stop, right? Like, ooh, okay, I feel this. Why do I feel this? Where is that coming from? Like first, where do I feel it in my body? And for the people who've disassociated, that's harder to think about. And then from the body, you get into the heart, right? Like, okay, when's the first time that I feel that in my life? And this is kind of what we're going through now. So the end of the burnout story, right? Like 7 castles melting into the ground.
Yeah.
And that became my journey to, this does no longer serve me, shut it down. This doesn't serve me, shut it down. And I had to have conversations with the team and some really good people. But I was called to do it, and I had to follow it. And literally, it's this week. Yesterday, the closing's today to sell the office, which used to have 30 people in it. And
Congratulations.
yeah, well, and again, I don't know. So what am I doing now? People, is it
George?
Yeah, George asked, what are you doing now? I'm like, I am in shamanic studies. I don't really know. I'm like going to do a whole bunch of stuff. I'm learning about healing and meditation. I didn't believe in any of this stuff 5 years ago. Not one little bit. And to hear, like, we all have to get here in our own way.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny, when I met Chris, so Chris and I knew each other. But before, I don't want to get my brain goes too far, because like I want to hear about the trauma in the neck. But when I first met Chris, he's talking about all this personal development and all these books and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why don't you just read some nonfiction and have some fun? And like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and I'm like, all that personal development shit's a bunch of BS, blah, blah, blah. And the reason why I had that opinion is because I saw a lot of people around me reading all these personal development books, but I don't see anybody implementing them. And so I was like, until I actually see a result. like I'm a more action based than words. Like, show me, don't tell me, kind of person. So I
Don't
was
tell
like,
me you're enlightened while you're
So I was
giving,
like,
doing X, Y, Z.
and I'm like, that's a bunch of hippie, blah 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 blah. Well, guess what? I am a self-proclaimed bohemian.
Love it. Love it.
And so, like, we laugh about how far I've come because I was the one that was holding the line to be like, nah, that's just. But the truth of the matter is, the more that I'm going down this path, the more that I'm discovering me. And I said it the other day, I think I've been in flow state my whole life and not know it.
Or you now know it.
I do know it because I look back and I think, wow, these things just happened to me. I didn't force. They didn't happen. I think everything happens for us.
Beautiful.
Whether it's good or bad. But I was actually thinking, like, I'm actually in more in alignment than I thought I was. And like, wow, there is, even just embracing that concept was like, well, what I'm in alignment with. And we're getting ready to go to a break, but the War of Art, phenomenal book.
I don't know that one.
It talks about
resistance.
Yeah.
Talk about resistance,
Nice.
and then the Little Blue Room. She talks about her spiritual journey, about coming into an awakening, and you talk. And when we get back from the break, you say a lot of things about ego, and I think the ego. I said it on a show once before. What if you think about the ego as your brain? And ego is good for us because it does propel you forward. It propels you and gets you to build that empire.
Yeah.
It's learning to know when to use ego, and I think
When to listen to it.
listen. But I think our ultimate homeostasis, our state of, maybe it's not homeostasis. Our optimal state to be in is in flow. And I think that that's our spirit, being connected to our spirit or our soul. And so the War of Art opened that kind of concept to me of like, okay, what if our conscious, our soul, our subconscious is our spirit or our soul? And what if our conscious is our ego?
And you also said, what if your soul is your muse?
Yes. What if your soul is your muse?
What if you just listen to your soul? What if that was your motivation and your inspiration?
And there it is, right? So how do we get the mind to stop interfering with that direct connection
Yes.
to the soul and the heart?
So that we can even hear it.
Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful.
But if you think of that concept and then you think about everything that you've just said, and it's kind of like, wow, you've seen this, and the way that you've done those things, you've been on a quest to know you.
Yeah. Yeah, and the ego was the enemy. Once I realized this is the enemy, now I'm realizing just 2 years later, oh, no, this is the builder. Like the mind, the heart and the soul was the architect. This was supposed to be the builder, the mind, and then the hands were the tools, or the body is the tools. And I'm really embracing that now. And just like you said, like, yeah, like when can we turn this on, and when can we? Some people call it masculine, feminine, ego, and heart, like whatever you want to call it. It's funny, but as you're speaking, and I know we have to go to break, so like I'm in tune with these things now, and I literally can see, like, you have an orange light like right over your head, and I can see little kind of things like waving around you. So I mean, this is crazy now. Like, I didn't believe any of this 5 years ago, but seeing that now, it shows that you are, like, right now, even in now, you're in a higher vibration, and you're working to try to, everyone else around you can feel that. Like, it's a really cool thing to have.
God, that's cool. So I did a shaman journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she actually said, do you feel, so after we're done, she was like, what were your takeaways? I will can explain it because I think we're going to run out of time.
Yeah, we're going to explain it. You're listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live. Come back. We're going to go to a couple of commercials. We'll come back with Nick Aaleurd, and we'll talk to you shortly.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at WSMN.live.
Have you tried to quit drinking before, and much to your surprise and dismay, you couldn't? Have you tried therapy, meetings, and treatment programs, but still can't seem to stay stopped? Or maybe you live in fear that you'll lose your job, your home, or your family, and much more if you don't get this figured out, and soon. Well, there is hope. My name is Bill Nielsen, and I'm the founder of Nascent 24 Recovery and Life Coaching. And I struggled for over a decade. Yup, 10 years, trying to get it right. I lost jobs, 5 6-figure jobs in fact, homes, friends, relationships. I thought I'd never get off the merry-go-round or the roller coaster, but I did, and I've developed a proven proprietary process that works. Why does it work? Because it addresses the root cause and not the symptoms. No more Band-Aids on bullet wounds. It's a 12-week journey that will transform your entire life, not just the drinking thing. I work one-on-one with every single client, and your privacy and anonymity are paramount. The great part is that you don't have to leave your home, your job, or your family. Text me the word recovery to 203-241-1266. That's 203-241-1266. Or visit my website, nascent24.com, NASCENT24.com. There is a solution. Take the first step. You won't regret it.
USA News, I'm Ryan Daniels. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says he believes key U.S. interest rates can begin coming down sometime this year, but he just can't say when he thinks that will happen.
We believe that our policy rate is likely at its peak for this tightening cycle. If the economy evolves broadly as expected, it will likely be appropriate to begin dialing back policy restraint at some point this year.
His remarks came amidst prepared comments delivered on Capitol Hill Wednesday. He said the Fed wants to move inflation further down toward 2% before bringing interest rates down. The U.S. Supreme Court will hear oral arguments in former President Trump's immunity case on April 25th. Trump is contesting a lower court's rejection of his immunity claim in a federal election interference case. Special counsel Jack Smith's case against Trump is on hold pending the Supreme Court's decision on whether a former president can be prosecuted for actions during office. If the case proceeds, the trial might commence shortly before the November presidential election. Trump's campaign is notching a key Republican Party endorsement as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell announces his support for Trump this week. He says it should come as no surprise.
We find the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, guilty.
The Rust movie armorer at the center of controversy in the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins is being found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Hutchins was killed by a prop gun that fired a live round. Actor Alec Baldwin was handling the gun at the time and continues to face legal backlash over his role. Meanwhile, Hannah Gutierrez Reed will now face punishment. Earlier in the week, a state workplace safety investigator testified there were no policies put in place by movie management at the time to prevent real bullets from getting mixed in with others in the prop gun. This is USA News.
The inventor and CEO of MyPillow is always looking for ways to solve everyday problems. Have you ever picked up a towel set because it felt really soft in the store, but then when you go to use it, it's not very absorbent? It's basically a towel that's leaving you out to dry. That's why MyPillow has developed the MyPillow towels. Towels that work. I know, it's mind-blowing. Towels that actually dry you. The 6-piece towel set includes 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths. They come in a variety of colors, and right now you can receive a 6-piece set for only $39.98 with promo code USA. Go to MyPillow.com right now and click on the radio listener special. MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty, and they have a 60-day money-back guarantee. To receive this amazing offer on the 6-piece set of MyPillow towels, just go to MyPillow.com. Click on the radio listener special and enter promo code USA or call 800-951-8175. That's MyPillow.com. Promo code USA.
Alltrix Primary Care, Nashua. They are a dedicated group of board-certified nurse practitioners, NPs, striving to make a difference in healthcare. They promise to make every effort to provide you with the best possible care and focus on you as an individual. As NPs, they are licensed to assess, diagnose, treat medical conditions, and prescribe medications. At Alltrix, they welcome new patients and accept most commercial insurance plans and Medicare. For those without insurance, consider Alltrix Direct, which provides all of your primary care for a small, affordable membership fee. No co-pays, no fee-for-service payments, and no third-party billing. Alltrix Primary Care provides unhurried, highly personalized health care for you and your family. Visit alltrixpc.com/Nashua. That's www.alltrixpc.com/Nashua. Alltrix Primary Care. Changing the future of primary care for you and your family.
Are you or your loved ones in need of compassionate care in the comfort of your own home? Look no further than Heaven Sent Home Care. Heaven Sent knows the importance of personalized care tailored to your unique needs. Whether it is assistance with daily activities, medication management, or specialized medical care, our compassionate caregivers are ready to provide the highest quality of in-home care. The service provided by Heaven Sent Home Care extend beyond physical care. They also offer companionship, ensuring that you or your loved ones have someone to share stories, laughters, and meaningful moments with. Experience the peace of mind that comes with knowing your loved ones are in capable hands. Or visit us online at heavensenthomecarellc.com to schedule a consultation and learn more about the comprehensive range of services provided. Heaven Sent Home Care, where care and compassion come together.
Are you craving a delicious home-cooked breakfast or lunch? Look no further than Cookie's Diner, Hudson's favorite dining spot. But it's not just about the food at Cookie's Diner. Their friendly staff provides top-notch service, making you feel like part of the diner family. Cookie's Diner, conveniently located at 222 Central Street in Hudson. They're open Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. and Sunday from 7 a.m. until 1 p.m. Call-ahead orders are always welcome via DoorDash or by calling 603-880-3424. Cookie's Diner, where great food and fantastic service come together.
Come try your luck at the Lucky Moose Casino and Tavern. Your favorite casino gaming machines await you, including Ultimate Firelink, Buffalo, and Wheel of Fortune. Visit the Lucky Moose, exit 6 off the Everett Turnpike, or online at theluckymoosecasino.com. Open daily at 9 a.m., breakfast 9 to noon, and our delicious menu available for the rest of the day. Burgers, chicken tenders, pizza, and more.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn, on the mic.
Welcome. Welcome to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You're listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM, and you can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live, as well as Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Welcome back to the second hour. I am in the studio with Robyn and with Nick Aaleurd.
Whoa.
Welcome back.
Just what we're laughing between the breaks. Like, it's just so cool being so authentic. Like,
Yes.
and you guys are just so authentic too, like on the breaks and not on the breaks. It's just, I remember we did radio like 6 or 7 years ago, and it's just so funny. Like, the interview went like this, and then the break happened, and he was like, "Oh, everything's going wrong." And like, he'd have to like excuse himself and like make a whole bunch of calls and come back. It's like, you guys are just fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's just good energy.
So when
we don't have anything attached to it except for just like why it is the only thing we attach to it is fun and having a good time.
Yeah.
And hopefully just, maybe inspire, impact somebody just to like, maybe.
So when we talk about the show and then people say, "What is the show about?" I go, "Well, we have a good time."
Number one.
That's the overarching, even when we had the bear biologists on, what are we going to be talking about? Well, first of all, we're going to have a good time. We're going to talk about the bears, but like, I want you to go in with that intention of like, this is a good time. this is a really good time. Life should be a good time. We have lots of heartache. We have lots of struggle. That's what life is. So you have to choose the good time. You have to pick the good time. You have to make the good time.
Oh, so good. And you know what? I'm going to bring Robyn, during the break, you were talking to me a little bit more about like you didn't say this, but it came to me, you know, personality types between, you know, some of us versus a lot of, and I'm going to use the masculine energy again. There's a lot of that masculine energy. And when I see masculine now, I see a lot of like really like dark blues. So there is something to be said for, I guess you call the grounding or that rope, or to like make sure you have it. At the same time, it's funny because going through all the therapy and all the medicines and the shamanic journeys and all the things I'm doing now, we're all just really trying to be kids again.
Oh,
without the
my God.
limitations,
Yes.
without
Yes.
the stories, without the beliefs. And like you mentioned that's the orange too. Like that's in purple, right? With the heart but like I'm now forcing myself, if I see a curb, I have to try to balance on it. If I see like, you know, if there's a ball, I'm going to have to try to play something with it. And you have to force it. Right? Like it doesn't come naturally now.
Right.
So it's like you almost have
forgot
to
how
force.
to play.
Yes.
Oh, see, now it comes natural. So Jordan Peterson talks about that.
Yeah.
And he talks about when we can go in our adult life. He would shake his head the way I'm going to explain it, but so I am sorry.
Translation, Robyn.
I'm
Translation.
sorry,
of
Dr.
Jordan
Peterson, but this is a Robynism here. When he's talking about when we can go back and heal our traumas, and when we get to a level of an enlightenment, we actually can go back and exist in the space of our childhood.
Oh yeah.
And that's really seeing things. And I think we talked about it a little bit more. Think about when you go back to, think about kids when they get in a fight with their siblings or something doesn't go their way. 5 minutes later, they forgot that it ever happened. They don't hold on to it.
Yeah.
And it's simplistic, and they're living in joy. They're waking up and being like, what exciting thing am I going to do today? What are we going to conquer? And how much fun are we going to have? And so we let life weigh us down. And I actually said it in a thing. Think about if we were this ball of light, and it's like a magnet, and life and stress circumstances come with this black dot, and it's covering that light. It's attracted to that. What if we could learn how to be the opposite side of the magnet and expel it outwards, and we're repelling all the negativity? So we're not holding it. We're not allowing, finances and, jobs and stress and all these things to weigh us down.
Yes.
And living in that pure joy.
I love that.
Because kids have pure joy.
They do. They're born with it, right? They're born. And it's funny because we talk about emotions. And Dr. Peterson, by the way, if you want to have him on the show, I'm sure he'd be happy to.
Yeah, I like baseline. He's like $79,000.
It's just energy, though. Robyn.
I already checked it out.
It's just energy.
I've called him out.
Well, no, we're not joking.
Attracting him
So
to me.
I joke around that she has like a direct line to the universe, because she'll say, you know what I'm looking for, and it comes. So I throw things at her, and I like give her a picture. I want this direct line. Make the calls, because
Love
she
it.
does have a really good. She's a good receiver.
Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
I laugh. I said, I'm his wingman. And he's like, well, that's pretty ballsy. And I'm like, I know.
That's it. I love that.
Yeah,
But I don't say it with cocky and I say it with confidence, because it actually wasn't until I went inward to learn about me did my relationship with God or higher power become different. It
Why is that?
personal.
Keep going. Why is that?
Oh gosh. It's because I think that if everything is energy, I think everything is created energy. And if God is energy and he created us in his likeness, then we are, I can't believe I'm actually saying this out loud. Like I've said it out loud to me all the time.
Say it now.
But it sounds like, oh, that's kind of woo woo, and there's a lot of, but I don't really care. It's not your opinion. It's my life and I'm living it.
Yes.
But so if God is energy and we are created in his likeness and his purpose is us to be like him, then our singular purpose, I think all humans have one singular purpose that we share. We all have different journeys of how we get there, and we find different things. But our purpose in life was not to be a real estate mogul or to win an Emmy or all of these things. It's none of that. It's to know ourselves.
Yes.
And then the more we know ourselves, the more that we know God, the more that we know that higher power.
That's so beautiful. You just said it. I was waiting for you to come out and say it, and there it is. This is so. There's a great.
I'm a verbal processor, so it takes me a minute.
no, but that's the journey too. People need to hear that, and people are like, oh, maybe they're here talking about God on a radio station. Like, oh no, but like, then call it the universe, call it yourself, because that's really what it is.
People call it Allah, people call it Buddha, people call it universe. It doesn't matter what you say. Don't get hung up on the word.
Mm-hmm.
Just listen to the concept, the idea.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And if you do get hung up on a word, there's a trigger.
Right.
I wonder where that's coming from.
Oh, you're experiencing some resistance.
Yeah. Where
Read
that
The War of
resistance
Art.
coming from? So there's a great Disney movie that, like, again, I wouldn't have cared 5 years ago. Now I bawl my eyes out when I see it. It's for kids. It's a cartoon. It's called Soul. I don't know if you guys have heard of that or seen that.
I haven't. I have to write it down.
Oh, my God. It's Disney in this. Well, I know there's a lot of political stuff happening with Disney. Either way, in this one movie, they actually get it right by explaining very, very far out concepts of the universe, of a higher power. Because basically it's, it circles around this one guy who he wants to play this trumpet in front of this music. That's his purpose in life, is to play this trumpet in front of these people. And then things happen where he passes away in a Disney-like fashion and falls through a hole, and geometric shapes talk to him, and then and there's cats up there, and then him and his cat come back down, but they switch bodies, right? Like, it's his Disney thing. And it's such a beautiful way they do this, where the cat, the entire time this guy who's now in a cat body is trying to, like, I still have to play this trumpet. I'm going to do that. What I'm going to do. The cat is like, wow, I'm in this human body. Like, oh, cool, piece of pizza. That's amazing. Right? Like, those stars are really nice in this body. Like, and the whole point, like, they finally, at the end of the movie, they talk to geometric shapes. And he's like, what was my purpose? He's like, you humans are so funny thinking that you have a purpose except to just be. And enjoy and expand, like going through stuff, learning, right? Like, now we know expansion's part of that. And the only way to actually grow is to feel some of that resistance, feel some of that weakness and emotion, And I don't know, this might not be the conversation to talk about it. You talked about going back time and space. There's probably not the time to talk about that, but like, I have personally experienced some crazy things this past couple years where it's time isn't real. And if you can really go back and align yourself with different vibrations, like, well, should I talk about it?
Yeah. Yes,
all right,
let's do it.
I'll tell you about my experience. I'd love to hear your experiences. It sounds like you had a couple. I was in a moment, and it was a meditation place, and my wife was she's like, where are you right now? And my mind and heart were thinking, it was like meditating. I'm like, oh, I'm back, I'm in recess playground, like 7th grade. And she's like, okay. In 7th grade, we talked about the journey to self-love, right? And for me, in this moment, for the last 2 years, totally another tangent.
Yeah.
Learning that I didn't just not love myself, but I hated, right? I hated myself. I hated my mind. I hated my body. I hated everything about it. And it wasn't until I heard Robert Downey Jr. talk at an Oscar acceptance. He talks to Mel Gibson and thanked him for giving him a role because he was, an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And Mel gave him that role with the understanding that he would talk to Mel every single week, right? And have like a formation, like, how are you feeling this week? Are you doing okay?
Accountability.
Yeah. And Mel taught him to try to hug the cactus, to love himself, meaning hug himself, but he hated it. He hated the feelings of it. He didn't like to, self-love was just, didn't work to that. And he talked about learning to hug the cactus first, like, and embracing that negative feelings.
That prickly part.
Oh, yeah. So for me, when I tell that story, to be back in 7th grade, I also hated myself in 7th grade. Like, big fat kid, I'm in a uniform, going to Catholic school, but like, I'm a nerd, straight A student, right? And like, I'm picked on constantly. And I remember, like, she's like, okay, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm at the wall, I don't have any friends. And, so what are you doing? I'm looking, my bully just walked by. He said something really mean to me, and I'm feeling really down. And he walked over to the other side. She's like, well, what are you feeling? Like, I want to just stand up for myself once, right? Just once. And coming back into real space and time, there's only one time in my entire life that I got detention or was in trouble. But I never could remember why. And as I'm at this recess wall, she walks me through this exercise. She's like, well, if you want to stand up for yourself, what do you want to do in this moment to try to be a different version of the person that that you are right now as a kid? I'm thinking to myself, living this, I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stand up for myself. And in my meditation, which is like a dream, I walk up to this bully. He's finally by himself with none of his friends around him, and he's just doing a little walk, and I walk behind him, and I put him in a headlock, and I start choking him. And I'm like,
I love it.
I didn't understand. I held him there for probably 20 seconds, and the teachers and the whistles are blowing, and like they're all coming over. And I remember releasing him, and the teachers pull me away, and I'm just staring at him, like remember this, like. And then she pulls me out, and I'm like, that just happened now. Like as an adult, I just went back and did that for myself.
Yeah.
And that remembered why the detention. It remembered why the dynamic changed between me and that bully going forward. Like, oh my God, time's actually not freaking real? What?
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make any sense to
Yeah.
me. It's all like not real. So a lot of people, there's a great movie, Butterfly Effect, right?
Yes.
If you block things, there's a certain beauty to almost having your body and your mind block traumas out to protect you. There's almost a beauty in that because that's an opening for us as adults to go back and protect the child that we needed to protect.
Yes. So another way to say it, I think, is you can go back and rewrite the narrative.
Yeah.
And so it allows you to connect with your inner child again. And I like that. And so a friend of ours said, try speaking from the scar, not the wound. And I thought about, that's one of the things I want to share with other people. Once you actually realize that you have the power to create anything that you want, and you're actually sitting right now, whether you're driving to work and you're in a bad freaking mood and you're, pissed off at traffic, or your spouse or anybody, you have the ability, the power to change your mindset right now. You do. You're choosing it. You're choosing. And I would say to my kids, when they were younger, we have the power to choose heaven and hell every single day, every single minute.
Every minute.
It's our mindset. One of my stories about rewriting our narrative and like protecting the child. Just recently, we went back to Virginia to celebrate a 40th birthday party for somebody very dear to us. And I had a little bit of downtime, and I love my dad. And I was feeling guilty in this pressure of not going to see my dad, or whether I was going to see him or not. And I had asked Chris, I'm like, if you have some time, can you go with me? Like, I don't want to go. And it's not that I feel like there's anything bad. It's just, it's been so long, and we're just very different people. He couldn't go with me, so I took the rental car and I drove past all my old haunts, all the places where I felt like a chaotic teenager.
Yeah.
I was not, I was different. I was friends with different groups, but I didn't know it then. I felt it, that we're not the same. I don't fit in. I don't fit in here. I'm a misfit. But I'd get along with a lot of people, but I just know that I never met somebody that connected with me, that felt, you have friends that you just feel at home with.
Yes.
That you can pick your nose with, and you can cuss them out and being like, no, that was stupid, or, you can be real.
Yeah.
Never really had that feeling. So when we were in Virginia, I went by all of my old haunts, playing my favorite music and thinking, look at this little redneck tomboy that, never thought of herself that she would be anything. I thought I would grow up and live in the same town. And, I didn't really think that far ahead. And I looked at all that I've accomplished. I've looked at all the places in the world that I've been. I look at my life. I have twins. I have my dream car that I was driving. And, did we work like hell to get it? Abso-freaking-lutely we did. But instead of seeing all the trauma, I drove those old roads and just created a new narrative of being like, look how far I've come.
Yeah.
And she was just trying to figure it out. That little girl was just trying to figure it out too. And it helped me release all of those things. And you, by going into that meditating and going back, it's such a simple trick that we actually don't even allow ourselves the luxury to participate in.
Right. Because none of that stuff's real.
So that's why I was going to ask you about the neck. When you said when you were on Kilimanjaro, how did you end up healing that? Or how did you come up to finding that it wasn't just the car accident?
Well, it was that night. So since 18, I was in a car accident at 18 years old, and that was when it began. And then I working at different jobs in my life. I left a box wrong, it would tweak. So I'm living with this now the rest of my life, right? And it was literally just that one night when I experienced when that beautiful plant. Right? Like whatever that was, there's 36 different ones that I was just laying there and didn't know until I got up the next morning. And you expect the feelings, right? You get up and it's always it's like a bulb almost in the back of my neck. Very similar. There's a movie, I don't know which movie it was. Do you guys remember this, like a scary movie where the guy is always rubbing his neck? At the end of the movie, you see like he's had like this massive ghost sitting on his back the entire time. You saw it.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at.
I know, but like now we're gonna have to try to think of the movie name.
I know.
Yeah, I know. No, it's all right. We'll deal with that later, conscious mind. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Make a note. Move on. I have to write it down so I don't attach.
Yeah. But I think that, and there's still something there. Like it comes back over like a week or 2 weeks, which is my work, right? Like, so what is that? So now I'm tuning into it, and a lot of it comes back to guilt and shame, which are learned emotions.
Yes.
Like it's only kids we're taught that.
Well, so you know what?
Especially coming from the Catholic school. I joke around, I'm a recovering Catholic, and one of the things I knew as a child, I remember because I went to public school and then I had to go to private school.
Oh, you went that switch.
Yes, at 5th grade. And now I'm learning about purgatory, and I'm learning about all of these things. And I thought, how does this God love me?
Right. We grew up in a Southern Baptist church, and it was all hellfire and brimstone. And you walk out of church, and you're like, I'm never getting into heaven. A bad thought is going to take you to hell. And that's how I grew up. And it was just, it's fear. It's fear-based.
And guilt-based for Catholics.
So I can't remember where I read it, but I just heard, men, our boys, are programmed. We program them. Their first response when there's conflict or there's a confrontation to feel shame.
Yeah.
Women feel defensive.
Oh, interesting.
Their first thing is, and maybe it's because we are the softer energy, and there's a whole nother thing when you talk about feminine and masculine energy, like, oh boy, you are speaking my language, boy.
But I've walked around in the world in masculine energy.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's very difficult for me to switch when I think of, I have a sexy spouse. I don't refer to his name anymore now on the radio, but I have a sexy spouse, and I think, God bless him for putting up with my male energy. He is so male energy, and that is what is so attractive. And I want to be female, but because I march around in male energy in the world for a business and all of that other stuff, that I'm like finally in my 50s trying to be like, can you be a female in this? Like, this is the place you get to be that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have to march around all masculine because, someone else is masculine.
So you got somebody else to do that for you.
You have somebody else to do that for you.
But you have to feel safe enough.
Yeah.
Right? To be in that feminine, 100%. And it's so good that you recognize that with your husband, though.
Yeah,
it's so
but what I was a survivor. I was on my own from a young age. I was having to learn how to make a living. I was learning how to have to take care of myself. So I was that before I met him.
So you had to activate. So I believe we all have feminine and masculine energy in us.
Yes.
And you just had to be in a position for years where you had to activate your masculine energy. I have a lot of masculine energy too. Because Chris is like, you are a bull in a china shop. He's like, how does somebody so little? Like, I get all these, 6'2" and 6'3" boys that are like, okay. But so the masculine, feminine energy, and I'm like, what if God's intended the perfect union is to be in harmony of that masculine and feminine energy?
And there it is.
It's the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
And it's the soft, and being able to not, to being able to create that space. So for him to create that space where I can be in all of my feminine energy, and I create a space for him to be in all of his masculine energy. And I said to him, the way I see it in my mind when I closing, like perfect harmony of masculine and feminine energy. Women have beautiful bodies. They're curvy. And I think about the strength of a man's hand. And you picture a woman laying on her side.
Mm-hmm.
And in a man's strong, masculine hands are just slowly caressing the curves, and he's tracing her body. Yeah. To me, that is a beautiful harmony of masculine and feminine energy.
That's beautiful.
And because that masculine, that strength, we all need it. And we spend so much time in this world saying, oh my God, you've got masculine energy and that's toxic, and it's not. And it's not. We don't start celebrating the differences. We're not constantly saying a giraffe, why don't you go be a friggin' elephant? We accept them for exactly who we are. What does Einstein say? If you judge a fish's ability to climb a tree, yes, but that's exactly what we're doing. And we're seeing men and women this way. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, there is. I'll take it one step further too and say, so it is in relationship where we expand and learn the most, yes. Right? So, and relationship with others and relationship with ourselves. But, Michael Singer, you Surrender Experiment, Untethered Soul, like.
Oh my God, surrender. That's my word.
That's surrender. That's it. I get to just go to his temple. It was 2 weeks ago. I was like, gosh. Yeah. I shook his hand. Oh, I haven't showered since.
Oh, that's cool. Touch my hand.
No, but feminine and masculine, finding the balance in partnership, and also though, finding it within ourselves, right? Like knowing when we can activate the mask. Because again, I was so once I realized what I had been doing for so many years, I became angry at my ego and at that masculine energy, and like, why did I have to go and do that when, wow, I can just feel and just be and just like be experienced, like this is what I want. So I tipped the scale. And I went all the way over here for probably too much and too long.
Well, we all do,
And we all do.
We don't have a blueprint. Nobody wrote the book. I mean, they wrote millions of books, but getting it into our hand to be like, there's no rule book for life.
No, well, that's it. But I think like it is the balance within us and the balance with our partners. And you mentioned feminine and masculine, and there's also light and dark, and there's no light without the darkness, right? And like it's so cool to see. Have you guys heard of Matthias Di Stefano? Also,
no.
Again, crazy. Wouldn't have believed this 5 years ago. Matthias is a guy who is cursed and blessed by remembering every single one of his past lives. Oof. And he was in the one that's most prominent is Atlantean, and he speaks Atlantean, and he can sing in Atlantean, and he talks about they were of the elements.
Is that like Georgia slang?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, kind of like this. You know what I'm saying. That was a horrible Georgia accent. Sorry.
I thought it was actually pretty good.
I'm like, did Atlanta have a language? And then in my head, I'm trying to go, is it a written language? Is it like Latin where we don't speak it anymore?
I know. I just had to make a funny.
No, but you're right. You're right. Both. I think you were on the same level there, Lisa. There's he talks about the elements and how back then it was all about the elements, and he talks matter-of-factly how they built the pyramids. Because he's like, oh, well, back then it wasn't a big deal. We used the power of sound and throat to elevate and match the vibration of the rocks. And by using those vibrations, the rocks were moving really for them. And it's just matter-of-factly, and like, oh, you don't find anything.
They actually have studies of that now. They show that when they do, you know how like if you go onto YouTube and you say whatever healing energy or whatever energy is like 432 hertz, this whatever, they actually are finding that they can move balls off the ground just by sound.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. And we forgot all that over time, which is what his whole point is.
Yes.
So it's all about kind of getting back there. And every time he goes, and you can I had a very healthy level of skepticism when I started hearing this guy. And then it's funny because he goes to Las Vegas in the desert, and every single time he goes to Las Vegas in the desert and he calls people out, it rains. Heavy, heavy, heavy rain. So, because that's his element was water. So he's in town to any desert. He went to Egypt. He's like, oh, Matthias is in town. Did you get an umbrella? And every single time he calls upon the water for his thing. It's like, there's something here, right? Like, even if you don't believe anything, it's like, that's interesting.
Like, isn't that kind of magical? I think as adults, we lose magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you all of a sudden wanted to, so if you look for problems, you see problems. If you look for magic, you can find magic.
Yeah, like finds like.
Great. I hope someone quotes that or tweets that. That's
Right?
a good one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I have a water story.
Yeah.
So we, after dinner, so when my kids were middle school, 10, 11, after dinner, if we didn't have a sport to go to or something, I always like to do and get some activity out. We'd always go for a bike ride or rollerblading. We'd play, what's the ball? The wiffle ball.
Yeah.
Wiffle ball, or we'd do soccer. We'd go for a walk. And I said, let's go for a walk. Needed to walk the dog. Chris is like, I don't want to go for a walk. It's going to rain. And I'm like, it's not going to rain. He's like, look at the sky. It's going to rain. And I'm like, it's not going to rain. And he's like, come on. And so I've got I got my entourage of 3 grumpy bears behind me. And like, it's going to rain. Rah, rah, rah. I'm like, it's not going to rain. It's not going to rain. We literally get back in the driveway, and I'm just like, okay, it can rain. And it literally started spitting rain. And Chris is like, are you freaking kidding me? I said, I told you I was his wingman.
So you have to tell John, because John will be like, get on the back of my bike and let's not rain, because every time we get on a motorcycle, it doesn't matter how sunny it is, we drive into rain. So you're going to have to be on the back like, it's not going to rain yet. Just go around on the back. It's not going to rain yet. So when you were talking about the elements, I get into real estate. So I've always been very sensitive to my surroundings. And when I've had problems in the past when I was young and, dumb and 18 or 19 and my life was going like to hell in a handbasket, I would start moving my furniture around.
Oh, interesting.
Like work was going really bad. 5 o'clock, I'd start unplugging everything. I'd take my computer from the right side of the desk and put it on the left side of the desk, take my plant. I was always rearranging furniture. Like, I don't know, this isn't working. This view is not working. I always kind of had this like relationship with my environment that I didn't understand. So 30 years old, I'm starting to sell real estate. I go show a place for $549 over here. It's completely empty. I go show this place over here. $499 over here, completely empty. $549, beautifully decorated. Lots of live plants. Okay. They go, I want to buy this one. I'm like, it's a condo. It's the same exact one. Buy that one. Why would you spend $50,000 more? I'm a budget conscious girl. Why would you spend $50,000 more? They're like, but that one just is so much more inviting. I'm like, the view's not better. The layout's not different. Like, I am like arguing with my clients about not spending more money. My husband hears me on the phone and he's like, are you selling real estate? What are you doing over there? And then I start deep diving into feng shui.
Oh my gosh.
I have like 9 books on. I go to the library, take out every book they have at the library, go to the bookstore, I buy every book, and it's about elements. So then I start reading about what sign am I born under. I start going under the Chinese, I'm a water rat. So the year I was born, the element I was born under, and now my life is like making sense.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm like, don't put that in the corner. That's the wealth corner. We can't have, But now I have, and for feng shui is really difficult for a lot of people because they don't understand the bagua, and there's like so much to it. But I was working with this woman, and she was Asian, and she said my backyard can't be smaller than my front yard.
Oh, I don't know any of this. This is good.
I have to whatever the dragon on the back. Like, so when you read into that kind of detail, I don't have, but I know now I have a language to explain what you don't like, but you don't know why you don't like it.
Oh, wow.
Right?
I think because you can feel the space.
I can feel the
People,
space.
so they're not aware of it, but they can feel it.
Yeah.
And they don't know why. But live plants are a real thing, and they bring nature from the outside to the inside, and they connect us back. Like, we were born into nature. Yeah. We are nature itself. We're animals wandering around on the planet with language. But it's really funny because I don't believe animals are different. I don't believe animals don't have consciousness, personally.
Yeah.
I don't believe animals don't have consciousness. I believe they do. I believe they're just like us, a different kind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now we can see through Instagram and all these other things, animals are communicating with each other.
Absolutely.
There's a horse and a dog, and every time the dog comes up, the horse neighs. And they both take off running and they race. Don't tell me the horse and the dog don't communicate. You might not be able to understand them, but we can't even understand each other as humans.
Right.
We have this language barrier sometimes. Yeah. Like when you think about it as, if you think about intention or spirit, you can get a lot further. Mm-hmm. right? So if you're having an argument with somebody and you're like, whoa, 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 what's the intention behind this? Like, can't we jive our energies onto this?
Yeah.
But when I lost religion when I lost my father. I lost God when I lost my father. Because I was angry.
Yeah.
Like, how could you let this happen? Like, all my praying, and you just ignored it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Betrayed.
But I needed spirituality. So I constantly deep dived into all of these different things and all of these different religions because I was trying to fill the God-shaped hole in my heart. Right?
Yeah.
And I finally came back to God in a way that I could understand it that wasn't taught to me in a Catholic church.
Yeah.
But I go across the same thing of like when I look out into nature and I am part of nature, that's where I see God. I see God in the ocean. I see the ocean as the earth's womb. You know, like all life comes from the ocean.
It's so beautiful.
You
right?
know? And so, but then when you come into your, like, you have one world, and then you spoke at the beginning, and I'm kind of doing my rapid fire digressions where I'm touching like 9 different things at once. But when you came in and you said I was a different person 6 years ago and we were different people 2 years ago, we're supposed to be.
Yes, we are.
The fact that if I would meet you 20 years later and you're the same exact dude I met 20 years ago, not impressed.
Oh my God, imagine.
Imagine. And then if someone knew you 5 years ago and they're like, I know you, you're not really. Like, there's some basic components of me that are the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? I hope that I'm always generous and I hope I'm always kind. Right? There's some basic things. But then life kind of kicks your butt and changes things. And then you have to learn how to deal with that. And hopefully you have wisdom in your lessons.
It's happening for you.
Yeah.
Right.
And then turning into, and you can die or quit, or you continue to be a phoenix and continuously rise and rise and rise.
Do you do yoga?
Oh yeah, now I do. Yeah.
Okay. We gotta go to Humble War together.
Yes.
We have to do a three-way Humble Warrior Yoga.
Totally.
Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, because I do want to start doing it. And I actually said, hey, since he's not using his office upstairs on the 3rd floor, I could do a little yoga studio in that space. And he's like, all right, now are you taking my only room? I'm like, I'm not taking your only room. You have lots of other rooms. But if you're not going to use it, like, we could do yoga together.
That's just what Chris wants to do.
Right. I do have a video of him in Cabo doing yoga.
There we go. He's opening up to his feminine side.
And can I go back to, because I wrote so many notes as you're going, and I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that. When you talked about anger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have any elements of anger that you had to put down?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that in experiencing anger and understanding for me, right, I think we all do. I think everyone has anger. And learning that also anger isn't a bad thing and that we should embrace it, but also I learned that it was a secondary emotion. Right? Like it starts as something else and it goes into anger. And once the anger is processed, you go into that primary emotion, whether it's, a lot of times it's grief for me.
Yes.
Grief, sadness, loneliness, abandonment. That's really the crux of where anger comes from for me. So I'm still, even though I thought I would work through something, right? And then it's like there's another layer. So like another month later, it's like you're going through the same thing. I already resolved this for myself. What am I doing?
Right.
It's like,
well, so what I said to was reading a book, and I think it was probably that same one. We're talking about the masculine and feminine energy. And I said to Chris, we're just trained, we teach our little boys to like suppress your feelings, you're a sissy if you cry and you don't do this and, suck it up and blah, blah, blah. You got to be tough and all this stuff.
Be a man.
But when you get into adulthood, but a lot of times think about how many women are raising young men alone. They don't have that man. So the Fathered by God is a great book. And he talks about how really our men are just boys in big bodies because they haven't gotten to, and you think about other cultures where they actually have rituals of a rite of passage, and as in our American culture, we don't have a rite of passage anymore.
No.
We don't have that anymore. And so what we do is we teach these little boys to like, shut your feelings down. That's not manly and all this stuff. So the only emotion that they truly, really know is anger.
Yes.
And so the other day I said to Chris, he was coming home and he was downloading his day and like, these are the things. And he's like, and it made me really angry. And I said, no, Chris, just pause for a second. I think what I'm hearing you say is it hurt your feelings. And he's like, he does this. Damn it. And he's like, you're right. And he's like, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And he's like, I thank you for giving me that.
It's beautiful that you have such a direct line into his heart. And I feel like there's just...
He doesn't think that.
I know. Well, this is the beauty of it, right? And like me having been... It's funny because, Chris came and spoke at one of our events. And that is... I'm not... And Chris has done 19,000 levels of expansion himself. But it's funny because I did almost his exact same talk 2.5 years ago. But by being so far there, right?
Yeah.
He needs the softness. He needs something to bring him back into his heart because... There's so much, and when I saw him that day, I saw a lot of, it was a dark brown energy that day, but I'm sort of used to that.
Yeah.
So having the brown and I didn't see yours at the time, but let's say yours were orange, right? It's like, this all sounds crazy. I know it sounds nuts, but like, you guys are almost a bridge, and having built the 8-figure company myself, you need the bridge to be able to show people, yeah, I lived in this life, and I know the challenges, I know the problems, I know what you're going through, and I know that the mind is trying to solve everything that's going on.
Right.
And at the same time, be aware of what you do. Be aware of, yeah, but if we just like raise our vibration a little bit,
right,
everything gets easier.
So I said, I'm going to get a sign at our door when you go in. Check your stuff at the door. Probably a different word other than stuff, but
yes.
Check it at the door, because having an awareness. And I said, some of our conversations are, you don't allow me to bless you with my gift because you're running and gunning and stuff. And so you are the grounding force. And like, look around you. I have created our home to be that space. When you walk in and you breathe and look, I'm like, go into our bedroom and look at the intention. We have our favorite movies. We have favorite memories on the back of our wall. You wake up and you see exotic, colorful, beautiful flowers. You also have a picture of him and I in a very... Well, so we're both naked, and we're hugging, but the way he looks, it does look like Beauty and the Beast. There's this little tiny feature, and you can see his shoulders just massively. And I said, there's the feminine, the softness. And I'm like, you give me your gift all the time.
Yeah.
Come be in my energy. I can heal you. I can heal you. And there's another things that changing your language. And he said, just out of frustration. And he just said, you're always trying to change me. And I said, well, no, Chris, I'm not trying to change you. I'm trying to get you to evolve with me.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got nothing to say to that.
Well, a lot of our role, and you mentioned earlier, we're taught to suppress feelings, but we're also taught from caveman days to be the provider.
Yes.
Yeah. And provider now only means like one thing.
Right.
Where hunter and gatherer are like hunters and gatherers. Now
right.
It's like provide, produce. If we're not producing, then what's our worth?
Right.
If we're not providing, if we're not the main income provider, then what is our worth? So I think in that moment, what I just felt there is that also protector, because he's now taken that label on, it's almost difficult for us to choose when to pick up the protector warrior, the shield, and when to put it down to allow that to come through.
We now live in a world where bad news comes in 24 hours a day on a million different channels, and you're asking men who are protectors to shut that off in a home where
God.
all the news comes in.
Well said.
Right? So one time COVID's happening, cities are burning down. We're told you're required to protect the residents. And we're like, if the police aren't going to protect the residents, how would I protect the residents? Like this weird mandate came down in Massachusetts whenever John comes home and he downloads all of his worry about being a protector for all of these people.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, what do you want me to do? Do you want to write letters to everyone? He goes, there's nothing to do. And I'm like, well, then I can't hold this.
Yeah.
I can't hold all of these problems with no action item on my other end.
Right.
Wow.
I'm a doer. You tell me she's on fire. I'm putting her out. You tell me right. Which made me a great property manager, but bad for my soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really bad for my soul. But you tell me there's all these problems. If I don't have an action item, I actually don't even want to know what they are anymore.
Yeah.
If there's action, don't tell me about climate change when China's putting cloud thing. Like, don't tell me you're making nuclear bombs. Don't tell me about climate change. Don't tell, like,
Right.
there's so many things. If I don't have a solution or you don't have an idea for me, shut up.
There it is.
Right.
And you're right, but in that, I'm going to just say this, that's a very masculine place to live, right? Because I'm the same. Like, I feel that. A lot of times what I've learned, right, is on the feminine side, it's like some people, maybe your husband was tapping into that in that moment. I just needed to share. I just needed someone to listen.
Yes.
And to hold my emotions in that one moment. I'll forget about it in a minute, but just hold me for a second. But it's interesting because
and I'm not a good holder, right? I'm not a good holder. I want to now do something with this. And that's my anger. So I grew up angry.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So I had a mother with drug addiction, and it destroyed our family. And so anger was a low-grade motivator to get me to do what I needed to do, right? But someday it just burns you out. You're just burnt.
You only have so much actual energy, yes.
Because all you're doing is setting yourself on fire to take action.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I thought setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. I heard that once. It just resonated.
No, mine's to take action.
To take
you need
action.
to go. You need to, like, that's the motivation. You need to go. You need to do something. You need to X, Y, Z. You need to do, and the fire is the flame that starts action for me. Well, at some point, you're just on fire. right? Consuming yourself, like, not good. So you have to try other emotions. But that problem, whatever, I set myself on fire. So I had to come up with what am I doing? And I don't have the answer, actually.
No.
Anyone has suggestions?
Well, no, it's beautiful.
Right, because I constantly have to remember, are you angry? I'll go, no, I'm not angry. I'm tired. I'm not angry. I'm this. I'm not, because my first go-to emotion from the habit of having that emotion for so many years and for it being useful for so many years is, no, wait a second. Are you angry? No. Yeah. Well, like, first I'll go, yeah. Well, no, I'm not actually. I'm hungry or I'm tired or I'm sad or I'm lost or like a million other thesaurus emotions in there.
Yeah.
But the first one that provides me the shield to feel like I can take the onslaught of the world is anger.
That's your protector
Yes.
coming up immediately. And thank you to your emotions and your it's really your mind, right? Thank you to the mind for protecting you for so long and giving you that tool.
Yes.
Yeah, to fuel yourself, to not feel a little bit, but this is how I'm going to function.
Yes.
Right?
Right, and we're just asking.
Oh, but we were
when
talking
you
about
feel something, pause, allow that to sit for just a minute, and actually just, am I really angry? Just pause, and does that really upset me? A thing I used to say to my kids all the time when they were like fussing at each other, and I'm like, is this going to matter in a week? Is this going to matter in a year?
Yep.
And you're telling 8-year-olds, and they're like,
of course, my life is over.
But the truth of the matter is, now they use that tool. They use that tool all the time. She's like, well, just let it go. It's not really gonna do anything for me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a good let her goer either. Right? Because there was part of me that thought, I can't forget this lesson.
Mm-hmm.
There's some lesson in this. I'm supposed to learn something in this.
Yeah.
And if I let go, I'm going to forget the lesson. Is what I believed for a long, long time.
And so you picked up the shield and the boots and the armor and the plates and more chest plates and the helmet. And I'm just seeing this vision of lots and lots and lots of metal that just keeps forming and pushing and weighing you down as you go.
Yes.
Until finally you are aware of it.
And you're like, oh, I need to put this down.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I'm going to pick it up. No, you got to put it down for a second.
Forget the mistake.
So that's the letting go
Forget the
piece.
mistake and remember the lesson. And one of the tools that we've been using is, we're talking about making space in a container. Like when John, when he comes home and it's like, well, now I don't know where to put this. Well, it should be a hole in the bottom of your basket.
Yes.
And your in thing, allowing it just to pass through you. So if he needs a space,
like a basketball hoop.
Yeah.
Put it right there, Betty.
What's funny is yesterday, and I'm so grateful, like yesterday, and I told you a little bit before when we were on the break, like the forces of average is coming against you right now. And I know that, I did pick expand. So I know that I'm going to be tested. And I think that's part of like trials and tribulations. Like we are going to be tested if we're going to know our highest self while we're on Earth.
Well, how can anything expand without the resistance, without the failure or struggle?
Right. But,
Yeah.
it's been taught to us that, like, oh my gosh, it's going to be some terrible thing at the end when, the second coming is coming and blah, blah. It's not. We go through it every day.
It's true.
So yesterday, I left, Lisa and I were recording a podcast yesterday, and so I got home. Chris was there, and he just thought that we were just going to have just some time for us. He had a phone call, and I was putting some stuff away and trying to send an email out, and it just had kind of gotten away from us. And he's in the shower, and I was downstairs, and I'm like, just getting angrier and angrier, and I'm getting dinner ready and just prepped. And so I come upstairs with this epiphany, and I'm like, I'm ready to fight, man. Let's go. I mean, not at him, but just this energy that has been building in me. He's standing in the shower, and I'm like, I forgot how I said it. I'm like, you need to go do this and have this conversation and blah, 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 blah. This is how it needs to go, and this is why it needs to go this way. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's like, I'm in the shower. You're attacking me. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. The minute he said that and I saw his reaction is like, wait a minute. I am not directing that energy at him. That is everything I feel inside of me.
Yeah.
So I have a tendency to speak and move with the energy that is in me.
And what did I say about that dance? Dance is the erratic movement.
Yeah.
Like, I know dancing it should not be erratic. There should be rhythm to it. But that whatever can move the energy around, like have a 2-minute, put on a piece of music. Like I really resonate with music.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that I hear all the lyrics, they touch my feelings. Because sometimes Sexy Spouse will say, I don't even know what these words are. And I'm like crying. like I feel them today. But that's a vibrational thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can change my vibration by changing music. And if I listen to sad music, I can be sad. If I listen to thumping fast music, I can be happy. So when you're feeling that, throw in a little bit of music. And
and because he got out thinking he was going to war. Like, I could see the panic. Like, I could literally see, and I was like, no,
Isn't
no,
that
no.
amazing, the transfer of energy?
It's not at you. And, I mean, it took us a minute because he's still like, the cat with the all fur up. And he,
I feel all that.
He's got the
squirrely tail.
Yes.
Yep.
His tail's all fat and like, we're going to fight. But so it did take us a minute, but I'm like, just even like the maturity and the level of which we were able to shift, and he was able to be a container for me.
Oh, beautiful.
And not absorb that. I was like, dude, we just had a win, and we high-fived, and we're like, yes.
That's the expansion.
Because it could have gone into an argument, and it usually does, because we are both very strong human beings.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like, I'm cool until you draw the line in the sand, and then I'm like, your redneck comes out.
And how cool. I want other men to hear what you said too, because it's really cool to hear the feminine version of, he comes home, he releases some stuff, he's taking care of a call, and like meantime you're taking care of the home, waiting to have some time with him, and meanwhile like he doesn't acknowledge, and therefore so kind of resentment, a little bit of anger, a little bit of resentment's building, and that energy has got to go somewhere. So I want all the men to kind of hear like, what would happen if you just came in and you could, blow all the negative stuff into that black hole that you ladies were talking about. I love that. Like basketball hoop, black hole. That's so good. Mm-hmm. And then just acknowledge the present moment, being like, wow, look at this cool spouse. Look at this cool house. Look at this cool home. Like, I'm here now.
Yeah.
Like, I can let it all go.
Check your stuff at the door.
Yeah.
And just saying, you know what? Choose the intention. Choose the intention of what you're going to be. And I used it as an example. Like, I give bad analogies, but, suppose you had gone into, say you're a doctor. Say you're a doctor and you have just come off of, like, Narcaning somebody and they're combative and all this stuff. Your next patient is a cancer patient and who's going through a double mastectomy. Are you going to bring the same energy that you were just, administering with this addict?
Yeah.
Are you going to give the same energy to this cancer patient? No.
So I'll end on a story for this, right? It's not my story. I heard it. So guy is walking into his home. Before he gets to his home, he starts touching all the leaves on a tree. Goes in his home, has a beautiful night, comes back out, touches the leaves of the tree, goes back out. Guy with him says, what are you doing? He says, I put all my worries on the tree.
I love it.
I leave them all there so that don't bring them into my home. When I go back out in the morning, I pick up my worries and I go back out. If your home could be a respite,
yes.
If our show could be a respite,
yes.
Join us every Thursday. Yeah. Thank you, Nick, for joining us
Love
for
it.
2
I had
hours.
a great time, ladies. Thank you.
And how, if people want to reach out and find more about you, how do they find you?
Oh, sure. Instagram or Facebook. I'm there. I'm hanging out.
And spell your last name so people can do it.
2 A's. Aaleurd. Even though social media is evil, that's kind of where I still live.
Yeah, good. We'll find you there.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Update. A bill to keep government agencies funded through September of this year is now passed out of the House. The bill now heads to the U.S. Senate for approval before a Friday deadline. The measure was expected to gain congressional approval this week. It ensures no partial government shutdowns can impact key government agencies like Agriculture, Commerce, Justice, and Transportation Department.
We find the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, guilty.
The Rust movie armorer at the center of controversy in the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins is being found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Hutchins was killed by a prop gun that fired a live round. However, Hannah Gutierrez Reed will now face punishment. Earlier in the week, a state workplace safety investigator testified there were no policies put in place by movie management at the time to prevent real bullets from getting mixed in with others in the prop gun. I'm Ryan Daniels, USA News.
You've been working hard, doing the right thing and paying your taxes and putting your hard-earned money in the Medicare piggy bank all your life. And now it's time to break the piggy bank and get something back. Medicare. If you didn't know it, Medicare is health insurance for people over 65. And you've paid for it with your tax dollars. Medicare plans now have more benefits than ever. That's good news, especially if you're like me and looking forward to paying as little as possible for good health insurance. Call and find out what Medicare plan is best for you. Save your time. It's valuable. We've already done the research for you. And in one quick phone call, you can learn how to get the best Medicare plan designed exactly for you. Hey, it's one of the most important decisions in your life. Let us help you through it. Here's our number. Call 65 Plus Medicare now. 800-778-8214. 800-778-8214. That's 800-778-8214.
Hello, I'm Mike Falzone, owner of the 5-Star Baths. We are the best choice among bathroom remodeling contractors. We serve Nashua, New Hampshire, and nearby city. We're based in Nashua, New Hampshire. Our local remodeling company has experience providing customized bathroom makeovers that can enhance the convenience, comfort, and style of that bathroom. During our many years in the industry, we've perfected our craft, so we know how to deliver exactly what our customers are looking for. Simply partner with us, and your dream bathroom will soon become a reality. Please check out pictures of our jobs online at